broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. Welcome to North Central College's Master of Occupational Therapy webinar. My name is Wendy Pachaki. I am the Director of Graduate Admission here at North Central College. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to participate. I want to go over a couple of housekeeping items first. This webinar is being recorded. All of you who are participating in the webinar will receive a copy after the webinar has ended, along with our Master of Occupational Therapy fact sheet that will give you a lot of additional information about prerequisites, step-by-step admission process, application process, etc. As well as want to point out on the bottom or on the right-hand side, there's a little tab called questions. If you have questions during the presentation, please feel free to type those questions in that box. We will address questions throughout the presentation. We will also pause at different points in the presentation to ask if the group has any questions while we're moving through. So with that, we are going to get started. As you're going through the journey of choosing where it is that you want to begin your studies for the Master of Occupational Therapy program, location and campus are two factors that will matter to you. North Central College is located in Naperville, Illinois, which is just 35 miles west of downtown Chicago. Our campus is nestled in the heart of historic Naperville. Our campus is uniquely located in the way that it is just 2 blocks south of a Metro train line. What that means is you can get in and out of downtown Chicago Union Station in less than 45 minutes. Building on our foundation of being more than 150 years old and of excellence, we continue to grow with new facilities, programs, and initiatives that we still have in the works. One of these initiatives that is going to be launched in the fall is offering the Master of Occupational Therapy. Most recently, we have dedicated a building on campus, the Dr. Myron Run Science Center. This is a center where there are going to be teaching labs, research labs, classrooms, gathering spaces, faculty offices are there. There's also a greenhouse and a very large hall called Ratio Hall that can hold large groups of speakers, as well as the ability for it to break down into smaller classrooms. Our agenda for the presentation we're going to go over the program, kind of touch on some highlights for our curriculum and program information. We have 2 guest speakers with us today, Dr. Michelle Sheperd, who is our program director, and Beverly Menninger, who is our academic fieldwork coordinator. Both Dr. Sheperd and Beverly will be able to address our program as well as our fieldwork experiences and address any additional questions you may have as well. And then again, as I had mentioned before, during the presentation, please feel free to type in those questions. We'll address them throughout the presentation. But again, we will stop at designated points for some questions and answers. So program highlights and overview. Our program is a professional entry-level Master of Occupational Therapy program. This program has one entry point, which is in the fall of each year. The program runs for 24 continuous months. So what that means is you will run year-round, including the summer, for 24 months. At the end of that is when the program would conclude and you would graduate from the Master of Occupational Therapy program. Our curriculum is unique in that 30% of our curriculum is online. Dr. Sheperd will go into what this means to you as a student, why we have chosen specific courses to offer online versus on ground, and how that will impact you as a student. She'll address that again as when we get to the point of the presentation. Our degree program is grounded in our liberal arts tradition and our history. North Central College has a very strong basis in liberal arts. What that means for those of you that are going to be going into a Master of Occupational Therapy is the foundation is really designed to make you think critically, be able to function in a group, contribute to your community as a student at North Central College, but also contributing to your community outside of being a student at North Central College. Our first cohort will begin in fall of 2018, and our class size is going to be 40. For those of you that are going through the process with OTCAS right now with the plans of beginning a program in fall of 2008, the information that I'm going to be talking about for the application process is relevant for fall of 2018. For those of you that are participating that may be thinking in the future, fall of 2019 or later, I highly recommend that you continue to participate in the webinar, but also you want to touch base with us in the summer to make sure that you are in line with deadline dates, prerequisites, the application process for the program that will begin in fall of 2019. You always want to keep yourself updated with deadline dates and any required processes. So the OTCAS application process, for those of you that are looking for fall of 2018, is currently underway. North Central College's deadline date to complete your OTCAS application is March 15th, 2008. We are on what we call rolling admission. What that means is we will continue to review completed OTCAS applications, consider those candidates for non-campus interview throughout the process. So our interview process will begin in January, and it typically ends in June. What that means is those candidates that have already submitted an OTCAS application that's been verified will be considered for those January interview dates. For those students who wait until the deadline of March 15th, 2018, you would be considered for interviews after we receive your OTCAS application. I highly recommend, if you haven't already started or completed your OTCAS application, you're going to want to do that as soon as possible so that you can be considered at the beginning of the process when we're considering candidates for interviews. Our minimum GPA to be considered is a 3.0 on a 4.0 grade points scale. You can be in the process of completing prerequisite coursework while you're going through the process. So we do have required prerequisite courses. Some students will have completed those while they submitted their OTCAS application. If you are planning on taking, for example, the physiology course in the spring, you can still go through the application process while you're completing the prerequisite courses. OTCAS does have what they call an academic update window. You're going to want to go into the OTCAS portal and check the dates. OTCAS makes a decision of when they will open it and when they will close it. What that does for you is you can do an update for coursework that you've taken in the fall, and OTCAS will send that updated information to your designated schools. Want to spend a couple moments about our curriculum. I had mentioned before that our curriculum is 30% online. 70% of that curriculum is then on ground here on campus in Naperville. Your coursework, again, Dr. Sheperd will go over why we've chosen specific courses to be online and how the online courses will complement what you're doing on campus. Our students in the program have the opportunity where you begin your level 1 fieldwork in the spring of 2019. You then begin your level 2 fieldwork in spring of 2020. And Beverly Menninger will, when she speaks, she will go over your fieldwork experiences. All of the students in the degree program round out the program with a capstone. And what that capstone course does, it combines a research project with grant writing, which again is really tied to our liberal arts, which is wanting you to continue to learn after the degree program. So this capstone is one of those steps where you could be doing a project that takes you past graduation, something that you can apply after you become registered and licensed and are practicing. Want to be transparent about our status with accreditation. So currently our program is in what we call what is called applicant status with the American Occupational Therapy Association's Accreditation Council for Occupational Therapy Education. Our program will go before ACOTE for what is called candidacy status in April 2018. What we are doing between now and then is developing what we're doing is we're putting together all the required documents that ACOTE requires to say we are doing everything you're requiring us to do to go forward with candidacy status. Because of the place that we're in with accreditation, North Central College cannot admit students into our program until we have been granted candidacy status. We anticipate that this decision will be made by May of 2018. What this means for students who come on campus to interview, if you come on campus and you're invited to interview in January, the absolute earliest we would be able to notify you of an admission decision would be May. However, the time between you come to campus to interview and May, we would be in contact with you, giving you updates of what is going on with our program. We are going to be building a brand new lab that will house, or that our occupational therapy students will have access to. So during those couple of months where you're waiting to get a decision, we will be reaching out to you, giving you updates about what is going on with campus. It is also an opportunity for you to reach back out to us to ask any questions that you may have as well. And again, pending approval from ACODE, our first cohort will begin in fall of 2018. Want to pause just briefly. Again, want to take one of those moments to ask the group if you have any questions. We briefly touched on the program, kind of an overview. We went over some basics about the admission and application process, a little bit about our accreditation. Again, you'll have different opportunities throughout the webinar to ask additional questions that you may have. What I want to do at this point in time is take a moment and introduce our first guest speaker. Dr. Michelle Sheperd is our program director. She has her BS in Occupational Therapy from University of Illinois Urbana and Chicago, a master's from University of Phoenix, and her doctorate in teaching and learning in higher education from Argosy University. Additionally, I want to point out that Dr. Sheperd does participate in accreditation processes with other Master of Occupational Therapy programs, and is taking all of the necessary steps as we are producing the documents for ACODE to move forward with obtaining candidacy status. So what I'm going to do at this point is turn over the microphone to Dr. Michelle Sheperd. Good afternoon, Dr. Sheperd.
Good afternoon, Wendy. Thank you very much for your time, everyone, today. What I'd like to do is start to talk about the program. So if Wendy, thank you. And so the first thing I'd like to address is the fact that any curriculum that is designed is always based on curricular themes. And so I wanted to speak very briefly about our curricular themes to let you know how we are looking at our program. First of all, as the word occupational therapy indicates, we are occupation-based in our settings and in how we will be doing all of our classes. The focus will be on occupation. The other part of that first curricular theme is being a lifelong learner. So as Wendy indicated, we will be doing research and looking at evidence and making decisions on occupation based on being a lifelong learner. The goal then for you, the students, is to continue that lifelong learning, whether it's additional degrees, advanced degrees, or simply just continuing to learn about our profession and continuing to move forward in what you do with occupation and the treatment of our clients. The next theme focuses on curiosity, critical thinking, and ethical behavior. These also are the mission of both the college itself as well as the OT program. So when you are in our program and you say, how does this work? We're not going to give you the answer. We're going to tell you to start researching it, look at it, think about it, come back to us, let's discuss it. That's that critical thinking and curiosity that we want everyone who is in our program to develop. Ethical behavior also is part of what we look at both as an OT with our code of ethics as well as our school's mission. And that is, we are privileged to take care of our clients. And when we do that, we have to make sure that that ethical behavior is part of that. And that's part of what you will learn further as you go into the program. Our next curricular theme is that purposeful leadership. and that is local, national, global. We want, as part of North Central College, to be touching every, and not just touching, but being leaders in the field, being involved at the local level, at the national level, and maybe getting fieldwork involved where, and again, that's Bev's area, but maybe getting fieldwork involved where we're going to a different country and working with OTs. Because this is a new program, we're working on the basics, and both Beverly and I have some really great ideas of what we're going to do with being leaders in the communities. And we get to work with you guys to help build those leadership skills and being involved in the community. Then the last part is the experiential and evidence-based knowledge. We're going to teach you how to research the evidence and see and make decisions, again, going back to the critical thinking, but making decisions as to why you're going to do this treatment. The other part of this curricular theme is the experiential learning. We will be doing hands-on activities in the majority of, well, 100% of your on-ground campus and your on-ground programs, but we want you to experience what you're going to do with the patients so that when you go out on field work, you're more comfortable with touching, transferring, doing range of motion, all the different things that as an OT we have to be able to do. We're going to give you that experience on campus so that you can then translate it into the field. So those are the ideas from which we have developed our curriculum. Now, as Wendy indicated, some of our classes are going to be online and some are going to be on ground. The theory classes are going to be online. What this will allow you to do is read about the information, complete assignments in an asynchronous environment. Just to clarify, asynchronous is not at the same time everybody else is doing it. So if you're a 6 a.m. learner and you love to get up at that time and start doing your work right away, that's when you can do your theory classes. If you're a night owl and you want to do all your reading and that's when you learn best at night, you're going to be able to do that at that point. The goal of the theory classes, excuse me, is to allow you to learn at your own pace and in your own comfort setting. Now, our intervention classes will be on ground, and that means you will be coming to our college, you will be working with fellow classmates, you're going to be practicing activities, you're going to be involved in that experiential learning or that hands-on approach. We will show you assessments, we'll have you practice on each other. We will go out to, for instance, a daycare and have you practice a Bailey, which is an assessment technique, on kids who are the appropriate age. Not every classmate can pretend like they're kids, they're babies, and this will allow you to actually see what it's like when that child gets bored and walks away from you and you're still going, excuse me, could you come back here? Because I have more things to do with you. That will allow you that true hands-on approach in a community setting. Our classes, some of our classes are built one upon the other. So what that means is our assessment theory class is going to be online and it's 1 credit. It'll be at the start of the first semester. 5 weeks in, you will end that class, you will get a grade, and then you will start an assessment application class, which is going to be 2 credits and is on ground. So what you will do is you will take that information and knowledge that you learned in the theories and now you're going to apply it. And that's the way all of our curriculum was developed. You learn the theory part and now you apply the part. Some of our classes then will run concurrently, so at the same time. So you will have your pediatric theory class that will be online, and at the same time you will be learning about pediatric assessment and intervention. So obviously pediatrics is going to start with birth and newborns and etc. So your pediatric assessment and intervention will be those same assessments and how do you treat a newborn. By the time that pediatric theory class ends, you will be dealing with adolescents. And concurrently on ground at the campus, you will also be doing pediatric assessments that are appropriate to adolescents, because pediatric covers birth to 18. One of the things that is going to be important is, although there are online classes, and some of the days you will not have to be on campus, or the afternoon you won't have to be on campus, we really need to talk about the level and the amount of work you will be doing. This is a master's level course program, and your ability to work is going to have to be evaluated in conjunction with your ability to get the schoolwork and the learning all done in a timely manner. So anybody who is accepted into our program and who starts, I don't want you to be under an illusion that because some of the classes are online, you will have a lot of time, free time, in which you will be able to work. Those online classes will have the same amount of work as it would have as you are on ground. And again, if there's any questions about that, that's something that you can bring up now, or something that we can discuss individually in a one-on-one meeting after you become a student here. But please consider that very carefully. This is your profession you're going into, and there's going to be a lot of work that will be involved to achieve that goal. The other thing that will be happening is the community involvement. So I did speak to you about practicing on, a child, a 1-year-old, etc. But both the mission of the college and the program is that community involvement. So we will do field trips. We will volunteer. We also will be starting our OT SOTA Club, which is the student OT organization. And in there, we will be working and volunteering with different groups based on what the class as a whole decides that they want to work with. But the focus of this, and the reason I'm pointing this out, is we, again, because some of the classes are online, does not mean we are not going to be involved in the community. And that's a very important part, because part of what you learn as an OT is you give back to the community. You give back to those who have taught you, and you give back to those who have allowed you to work with them. So I want to make sure that everybody's very clear that we will be doing things in the community, and to be very excited about that, frankly, that privilege of being able to go out and being involved as a whole, as a group of students. So at this point, are there any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Sheperd. At this point, we are going to move forward with our next guest speaker. Again, all of you that are attending, please keep coming in with the questions. We're getting questions that we're also responding to, so continue to ask those questions throughout this webinar. Want to introduce our next guest speaker. Beverly Menninger is our academic fieldwork coordinator. Beverly has her undergraduate degree in psychology from Linfield College. She also has her graduate degree in occupational therapy and organizational management. She has practiced as an occupational therapist for over 30 years, working with clients across the lifespan in a variety of settings, including inpatient and outpatient healthcare settings, mental health facilities, skilled nursing facilities, home health care, pediatric clinics, and schools. She also has prior experiences as the Associate Fieldwork Coordinator for the Occupational Therapy Department at Colorado State University from 1999 to 2004. And again, Beverly is going to be speaking to you about your fieldwork experiences. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Beverly. So welcome, Beverly.
Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Wendy. You can go ahead and move forward on the slides there. So I'm going to go over the fieldwork opportunities that we have in our program that we're developing right now. As Dr. Sheperd explained, our whole program is really centered around not only involvement in the community, but experiential learning. And so, like she was explaining, within the labs, we're going to have a lot of opportunity to be doing hands-on work, even field trip kinds of things. In addition to that, we're going to be doing field work as part of the program. The level 1 field work experiences will be integrated into the OT coursework, and apply to the course concepts that you learn in class, and we're going to be applying that to practice. The intent of Fieldwork is to prepare you as students to provide that occupation-based service to a variety of clients across the lifespan. And the expectations from level 1 into level 2 will progressively get higher. So you will have less responsibility as a clinician in the clinician type of role, although we're also talking about working in health and wellness and community service or community programs. You will have more of an observation and some hands-on work in the level 1 fieldwork experiences, but then in level 2 we'll move more into that being responsible for caseloads and program development and that sort of thing. We have numerous placements planned at this point in the Naperville area, around the Naperville area, and even some into the Chicago area. When it comes to the choice of placements, which is a common question, you'll be working with myself as the fieldwork coordinator, and we work very hard to match you with a site, with a setting, with clientele that you're most interested in, providing you with a variety of experience in the lifespan as well as practice areas. And if there are places that you know of that you would like to potentially do fieldwork, we can entertain that. What we want to be careful about is if it's a setting that you may have worked in, let's say you are a massage therapist or a licensed nurse or a CNA, and you may have worked in a skilled nursing facility. We want to be careful that we're not putting you back in that setting where they may have expectations based on your previous role in that setting. We want you to be going in fresh into a setting that you can learn and practice as an occupational therapist, occupational therapy student. So we'll be working together to choose the placements that meet your needs as well as meet the needs of the curriculum. Okay, so level 1 we were talking about, that will begin in spring of 2019 as part of the curriculum. This is where you're going to be introduced to the concept of fieldwork and how that all works, applying your knowledge to practice, and gaining an understanding of the needs of a variety of clients throughout the lifespan, like Dr. Sheperd said, from birth to end of life. You will be working in level 1 with a variety of professionals. There's not a requirement in level 1 to have an occupational therapy supervisor. In some circumstances, that will be the case. In other circumstances, you may be working alongside teachers or psychologists, social workers, even folks that have developed programs on their own that have all different backgrounds. You may be doing some level 1 field work in traditional OT settings that are listed here, as you can see, hospitals, outpatient clinics, schools, even behavioral health or mental health settings, and also community-based settings. The equine assisted therapy program, we have a couple of those lined up for fieldwork experience, a few homeless shelters, preschools, senior centers. And as Dr. Sheperd was also talking about, we are entertaining the idea of ultimately doing some kind of international fieldwork, and not probably level 1, but when we look at level 2, so there'll be a variety of settings there. So then level 2 is where it gets a little deeper. It's 2 full-time 12-week placements with an OT as a supervisor. This is where you'll have the chance to develop those skills more as a practitioner, providing services that are going to address the needs for all of us in human occupation and performance. You'll have an opportunity to serve clients in a variety of settings, again, across the lifespan. And here's where you're going to be developing those skills of clinical reasoning, professionalism, honing the evaluation skills, getting hands-on work with that, as well as direct intervention, discharge planning, and the like. There may also be more of a non-traditional setting available, which may give you the opportunity to work in a community setting that's a little bit different in program development and that kind of thing in health and wellness. So there is a lot of opportunity in field work. I think that's the last slide, is it not? Exactly. So if there are any questions on field work.
Thank you both, Beverly and Michelle, for participating in the webinar and taking time out of your day. I would ask that you guys stay online. We have questions from our attendees coming in that we're responding to, but we also have a couple of questions that are coming in that we want to address to the group. So Dr. Sheperd had mentioned in her part of the presentation that as an OT student here that you would be doing volunteer service. Dr. Sheperd, one of the questions coming in is asking about how many hours would you expect a student to be volunteering while they're also working through classes, and then also what type of experiences will they gain through those volunteer hours. So I'm going to turn it back over to you to respond to that question.
Thank you, Wendy. You know, I was just at a conference last week, and somebody was talking about when they were in school, the most frustrating answer that their teachers used to give was, "It depends." And I smiled because that's my favorite answer also. So in answer to the question, it will be, it depends. What will happen is some of the volunteering will be optional, that if you have the time, if you have the energy, if you have the opportunity, we would want you to participate. Other involvement in the community might be mandated. In other words, it's going to be part of a class so that you will have to go. We will be very clear with you on any of those, on the requirements. And trust me, I want people to be successful in this program. And so we will do volunteering based on everybody's availability, as well as making sure you have that time in your life to do other things. One of the things you will learn as an OT is that everybody should have a nice balance of work, rest, and play. Rest is in there as well as play. I am a big proponent of that, so we will make sure that it is either part of your class, which then you'll be going into the community, or if it's volunteer, it will be truly what that is, and that is volunteer. And if you cannot participate, it's not a big deal, and I really mean that.
Thank you, Dr. Sheperd. We do have a second question that is coming from the group that I'm going to announce to the group again so that others can get the information from this. There's a couple of questions coming in. If we can go into a little bit more detail about our choice of offering 30% of the curriculum online, and then if you could maybe just go a little bit deeper about how a student will be in an online class as well as on campus, and just maybe a little bit of details is what they're looking for about what that particular schedule may look like. So Dr. Sheperd, I'm going to turn it back over to you to answer that question as well.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. So how will the classes work? I actually have the classes laid out at this point, and a lot of it will be that you might be on campus 3 days a week, and the other couple days you might not be on campus at all. But at the same time, you will have online classes you will have to be keeping up with also. That was why I did focus on that ability to work at the same time, because that will be a pretty large issue for the majority of the people, of being able to do everything at once. When we do talk about online, there will be readings to do, there will be assignments to do, there will be some lectures to listen to, and it will be all of those things combined that will allow you to learn that experience on your own time. So it's every semester, or every quarter, excuse me, you will have online classes as well as on-ground classes. So there's no period of time where you will not be on the campus at some point during every week. Does that answer what the person was looking for?
I believe it does. Again, as we're going through the presentation, our guests are continuing to ask more questions. So one of the questions coming in that, again, I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Sheperd after I read the question, but I want to read it out loud so the whole group can hear this. One of the questions coming in is, again, what happens to the students that are in the occupational therapy program if we do not get accredited? So again, I want to address the group. We are approaching the process of candidacy status which is going to allow us to admit our first class. That will start in fall of 2008. I'm going to turn this back over to Dr. Sheperd, who will then address what North Central College and what the faculty in the occupational therapy program are going to be doing while we have occupational therapy students that will be in our curriculum, what steps the institution is going to take to get full accreditation so that when our first class graduates, you will be graduating from an accredited, or we're going to be taking the steps so that you're graduating from an accredited institution. So I'm going to turn this back over to Dr. Sheperd to address again what it is that North Central College and the occupational therapy faculty are going to do while we have students and we are checking the boxes to get our full accreditation.
Okay, so excuse me, the first part of that question is, let me speak very briefly to ACOTE, which is our accrediting, it's the Accreditation Council of Occupational Therapy Education. So ACOTE is very clear that they are going to protect the stakeholders, and their number one stakeholders are students. The secondary stakeholders then are the patients and clients that you guys will then touch and treat. So their first goal is to make sure that we the school, is prepared. That is why they go through multiple steps. The first one is you have to do the application, and you have to show that you are ready to bring students in. And by ready, they want to see the curriculum layout. They want to see that we have the right people employed, that we have a place to do the lab, and those types of things. After that is accomplished, then and its candidacy status is granted, then the next step is a pre-accreditation status, where we've turned in the self-study that will go over all of the different steps and standards that are required by ACOTE, and we have to demonstrate to them, it's about 200 of them, that we are meeting every one of those things. The last thing they do is then they come in and do a site visit. And they look at the self-study, they look at what we're saying we're doing, and they just verify that we really are doing it. And that final step will occur while our first class is on their fieldwork, because you have to graduate from an accredited program in order to sit for the certification exam, or the registration exam, excuse me. What you can do is go online to aota.org, and you click on the education part, and you can read all about all of the different things, the way the policies and procedures work for accreditation. So I want to be very, as Wendy said, I want to be very transparent with you. The website again is aota.org. It's American Occupational Therapy Association.org. So North Central specifically, and just to let you know, in my previous life before I came to work for North Central, I have done about 50 different self-studies and accreditation visits, both as an employee at a location as well as consulting. Every one of those that I have participated in have been accredited. Now, I cannot guarantee you, because if I do, then somebody from ACOTE calls and yells at me. So I cannot guarantee you that we will be accredited. What I can promise you is I don't want to ruin my perfect record, and we have unbelievable support from the college as far as making sure this is done. One of the questions in this application process that we just submitted asks, the very first thing, we have to summarize all kinds of information about the development of our curriculum and everything. And the last question that we have to answer in that section is there anything that you feel the college, or feels that, is there any place that you feel there's a deficit? And when I looked at that, I actually answered it very honestly and said, the college has been so supportive of this program that at this moment there is nothing that I can think of that we need or would not make this program be successful. And I am saying that very honestly. I am an OT first and foremost, and I value my reputation very much. It's a positive one, but I also want to make sure that the school maintains a very positive reputation like they have. And I believe very strongly that everything we need to do to get this program accredited will happen. And that's really all I can tell you, other than I cannot guarantee you it's going to happen or I get in trouble. So I hope that answers the question.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sheperd. So again, there's a couple of questions that I want to respond to the group. Some of you may be listening and not typing in questions, but you may have similar questions as others. So some of these I'm going to just address the entire group. One of a couple of popular questions that are coming in about is cost of attendance. So the program, we have not released tuition for the 2018-19 year. However, you want to plan on an anticipated cost of about $800 per credit hour. A second popular question that's coming in from the group is, what is it that we value most when we're looking at an application to consider for the next step in the process, which would be the on-campus interview? So my response to that is we take a holistic approach when we're reviewing applications for those that we're going to consider to come on campus for an interview. We are going to be looking at your academic credentials. So your academic credentials is a sign of, are you prepared to be in a graduate program? Again, as we had talked about, this is a full-time, daytime program. We want to make sure that you're academically prepared. We are also going to look at your prerequisite courses. We have prerequisite courses specifically because those are foundations for your success in graduate level courses that you will be taking as occupational therapy curriculum. So we're going to also be looking at that. Keep in mind, the minimum GPA to be considered is a 3.0. So at the bare minimum to be considered, you do need an overall GPA of a 3.0. We also are going to look at your GRE test scores. That's a standardized test. All occupational therapy students are going to have to take the placement exam after you finish the program in order to get registered. That is a standardized test. So we're going to look at your GRE test scores. I would say we don't have a minimum of GRE score to be considered. However, to be competitive, you'd want to be as close to the 50th percentile in each of those categories as you can. We also are going to look at the required letters of recommendation that you submit. We're going to be looking at those occupational therapy observation hours. We're going to be looking at your volunteer hours. We want, as we keep talking about our liberal studies tradition, we want our students to embrace what that liberal studies tradition is. That is why we are looking for somebody who's well-rounded. We want you to be academically prepared. We want you to be able to outreach to the community. We want you to have a desire for the profession as well. So all of those things are what we're going to be looking for when we are considering candidates to come on campus for an interview. Just to give you an idea, you all know and are aware that occupational therapy is a competitive process. All schools are receiving large numbers of applications from OT-CAS. I can tell you as of now, we've received about 500 OT-CAS applications, and again, our class size is 40. Please don't think of that. Those numbers seem very large and then very small. You want to be the most competitive applicant that you can be. So think about yourself as you're going through that application process rather than everybody else that's going through the process. Spend the energy and time to make sure that you have set yourself up to be the best applicant you can be. Make sure those letters of recommendations are talking about who you are as a student. Academically, one of them is required from a faculty or academic advisor. You want to talk to us about the experiences you've had when you were observing an occupational therapist. How is that tied to why you want to be in this profession? Talk to us about the volunteer experiences that you had, the experiences that are not related to occupational therapy. We require volunteer hours. That can be at a YWCA, a YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, through your church, through a local food bank. So talk to us about how those experiences have kind of crafted who you are. And again, talk to us about how that makes you the best candidate for North Central College's program as well. So I hope those answer some of the questions that we have for the application process. So some of the other questions that are coming in is if we're going to be holding seats for alumni of North Central College. We will not be holding seats for our any alum of North Central College. The 40 seats that we will be awarding for students that are going to start in the fall are open for anybody who is applying and gets through that process. So just a quick reminder, for North Central College, there are specific documents that you need to upload into OTCAS. Once OTCAS has verified the information, North Central College receives your application that's been verified from OTCAS. The next step in the process is to consider you for an interview. Again, I talked about rolling admission. We will begin the interview process in January. All candidates that are verified and completed in OTCAS will be considered for the first set of interviews. It's regardless of if you're from North Central College, from UC Berkeley, from Northern, from the East Coast, all of those candidates are going to be looked at equally to determine who are the strongest candidates to bring on campus to interview. That process continues to repeat itself on a monthly basis until we end our interview cycle, which again typically happens at the very latest in June. So a couple questions are coming in about our wait list process. So one of the things that could potentially happen when we're considering candidates to come on campus for an interview, we may put somebody on a wait list to participate in an interview. What I would encourage somebody who is placed on a waiting list, first of all students are going to be notified of your status. So I can tell you over the next 4 to 6 weeks is when we're going to be reviewing applications and sending out invitations to participate in our interview. That will be happening in January. Very important to make sure that you have the correct address, that you're checking your mail. So you will be notified by mail if you are invited on campus for an interview. For those candidates that receive notification that you've been placed on the waiting list for an interview, you will be encouraged to update your application as new information becomes available. So for example, I had talked about the academic update component in OTCAS. It's very important that you go back to OTCAS, look at when that academic update window is available. You send in any transcripts for courses you've taken this fall semester or fall term. OTCAS will update that information. You probably put coursework that you were taking in the fall, but you have no grades. This academic update then is going to show what grades you received in the courses you said you were going to take. If at some point in time you decide to take the GRE again, you want to send in your updated test scores. If you are continuing to accumulate observation hours, either in OT or if you're continuing to volunteer, you want to send in that updated information as well. Especially if you have any new experience, you want to keep that you want to send that information to us so that we can continue to update your file. Again, rolling admissions means we continue to review applications on a monthly basis to determine who will be coming on campus for an interview. If you've been placed on the waiting list, you on a monthly basis will be reviewed again. You want to make sure that you keep us updated with any changes that happen. So there's a couple of more questions coming in about accreditation. We cannot speak to why other schools are at the places they're at with their accreditation or answer any questions about any other institution about North Central. With its accreditation, what the next steps are for accreditation. As Dr. Michelle Sheperd said, no, we cannot guarantee anything in this step in the process, nor can any other institution. What I can tell you is any institution who says they want to begin an occupational therapy program, all those institutions have to go through the same step. So institutions that are sitting there that are already accredited have gone through this process as well. Any institution has to graduate a class to prove that they are offering a curriculum that is going to develop a competent occupational therapist. There are steps that every institution has to take in order to obtain full accreditation. So again, North Central College cannot answer any questions about what is happening or why things are happening with other institutions. That is between the institution and the accrediting body, between ACODE. That information is not shared. We can speak to where North Central College is at, what next steps we have to take, and how we are doing our best possible work to make sure that we are checking all of the right boxes to prove to ACODE we should get accreditation. So that's the absolute best way that we can respond to that question. And then we will continue to keep students updated throughout the process. So between now and May is an important time frame. All students who have submitted an application that are being considered for that class that starts in fall will be updated from North Central College about where we're at in that process. So again, a lot of information that we have talked about in the last 45 minutes. All of those that have attended in the webinar, you will receive a copy of the PowerPoint presentation as well as the recording. You will receive our contact information. So if after the webinar, you then start to digest all this information and you have additional questions, you can send us an email, you can call us to ask any questions that you may have about admission, the application process, etc. At this point, I think that we are kind of at the ending of the questions that are coming in. But again, please know it doesn't end when the webinar ends. You can still ask questions and contact our office directly. So I want to again thank all of you for participating. I want to thank our two presenters for taking time out of their day as well. Again, my name is Wendy Pachaki, the Director of Graduate Admission here. Thank you for participating, and I hope to hear from each one of you, either if you're calling our office with questions or reviewing